Woo! All right. So I think we are live. What's up, everybody? Welcome in. We are back. It's Orioles Weekly. We have taken a several-week hiatus.
All right.
But let me just turn that down. But we are back and better than ever. Good to have all of you here. We are going to have a lot of topics to talk about tonight as people come in, hopefully. Good to have everybody in here. Been getting a lot of new subscribers lately. We are only 5 away from 700 subscribers now. But lots of different topics to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about the All-Star Game. Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman. Gunnar Henderson broke some news yesterday about the All-Star Game. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We are going to discuss the recent struggles of the rotation. But in specific, we're going to talk a little bit about Cole Irvin and what we think is going to happen with him. We're going to talk a little bit about the June. We'll talk about June and my analysis of what happened in June. Talk a little bit about how the Orioles did. Daniel Barry Sports, welcome in. Sony 4K, welcome in. And then last but not least, as we start to get into, obviously, the second half of the season, All-Star Game is right around the corner. We'll talk a little bit about second half. Trade deadline is now, we're less than a month away. I think it's July 30th or 30. I think it's the 29th, 30th of this month should be the trade deadline. So teams are going to start thinking about how they're going to make their moves, what teams are going to fall out of contention, what teams maybe are going to have to make that tough decision as to whether or not they are or aren't in contention. And the Orioles are going to have to sift through these teams and find out which teams are the ones that are willing to negotiate. And I'm going to talk about some players that I think are guys that should be off the table, period. Not in any way, shape, or form should they be traded by the Orioles. These are the untouchables to me, and I do have a few. So before we do that, for those that are new here, good to have you all in. If you're watching the replay, thank you for watching the replay. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. We are only 5 away from 700. And also hit that bell notification. That way, every time we do go live or do a new video, you won't miss it. Also, give us a thumbs up. It definitely helps to get us out there with YouTube, as we are a new growing channel. We're 6 months old. Well, 7 months now. 7 months old today, actually, July 1st. We are now officially 7 months old, and we have about 700 subscribers. So it's about 100 a month, and that's not too shabby. I'll take it, for sure. But let's go around the league real fast. There's not much going on tonight in the way of baseball. Very small schedule. Earlier today, we had the Astros beat the Blue Jays 3-1. The Mets and Nationals are scoreless in the bottom of the first. And a little bit later on tonight, the Brewers are playing the Rockies. That's it. That's it around Major League Baseball tonight for baseball. No other games. Of course, the Orioles will start a series starting tomorrow night on the West Coast, as they have a 2-city West Coast trip as they go to Seattle, and then they go to Oakland, and then they're back home, if I'm not mistaken. I'll tell you that right now. Yep, then they're back home for a couple series with the Cubs and the Yankees before they go to break. So 3, 6, 9, 12 games left before the All-Star break. But the Orioles, for the month of June, and we're going to get into June a little bit later, I said that I thought that was going to be the big month for them. That was going to be the telltale sign of where they were, and it was really going to give us some indication of how they were going to fare the rest of the way, because of so many games in a row. They had like 29 games in 30 days with only one off day, and they were playing so many really good teams, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. But before we do that, I want to touch on a couple other things. Again, we talked about it, 12 games away, All-Star Game right around the corner. The All-Star Game, the Home Run Derby, is going to be Monday, July 15th, followed by the All-Star Game on the 16th, and then teams have 2 days off on the 17th and 18th, and then they start back up regular play on the 19th. Now, as for the Orioles, when it comes to the All-Star Game, 6 guys made it to the second round, basically the finals. And, of course, that is, we had Ryan Mountcastle is still in the running, although he's behind Vladimir Guerrero right now, Vlad Jr. We have Ryan O'Hearn, who is in a really tight race for the DH spot in the American League. We have Jordan Westburg, who is trying to get the spot at third base. We have Anthony Santander trying to be one of the three outfielders for an All-Star. And, of course, we have Gunnar and Adley in the All-Star game mix as well. I can tell you right now, Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman are pretty much locks to probably start the All-Star game for the American League. Gunnar and Adley both are well ahead of their counterparts in that in the voting, and voting ends Wednesday. So it's not even, the second round's not even that long. So voting ends Wednesday, and I would highly doubt that Gunnar or Adley are going to get beat. So I think we can probably put it in ink that Gunnar Henderson's going to be the starting shortstop, and Adley Rutschman's going to be the starting catcher for the American League this year in the All-Star game, which is fantastic. Now, I will say this. I think Anthony Santander, Jordan Westburg, and Ryan Mountcastle are probably long shots. They're all a little too far back in the voting to really make a run for this limited time. You basically have like 3 to 4 days to vote, and I just don't know that there's enough time for those guys to make it up. The last one, I will say, Ryan O'Hearn, is only behind 51% to 49% in the voting. So he has a legitimate shot. So if you haven't already gone out there, get out there and vote. You only get one vote. Remember, in the first round, you got up to 5. The second round, you only get 1 vote. So get out there, vote today, vote tomorrow. Let's try to get Ryan O'Hearn into that All-Star game. He's never been an All-Star, so it would be neat to see him get in. So yeah, again, Adley and Gunnar, I think, are pretty much locked in. They're going to probably start the American League All-Star game for the Orioles. And I'm sure we'll have some reserves as well. I can pretty much guarantee you Corbin Burns is going to be on the team. He might even be the starter. So Corbin Burns is going to be there. I think probably O'Hearn or Westburg or one of those guys is going to be there as well. And I think that might be it, though, because I don't know that there's anybody in the bullpen that I can say is legitimately earned a spot on the All-Star game. What do you guys think in the chat? Let me know. Laura, welcome in. Can Gunnar Henderson win the home run derby? We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Nomadic Brian, welcome in. Good to see you as well. So anyway, I think there you go. That's going to be the All-Star team. Orioles, in my opinion. I think Gunnar makes it. I think Adley makes it. Obviously, I think Corbin Burns makes it. I think Grayson Rodriguez has an outside shot of making the All-Star team as a reserve pitcher. But other than that, maybe you get Ryan Mountcastle or Ryan O'Hearn to make the team as an alternate, as a reserve. But I don't think anybody in the bullpen makes it this year. Just don't. Don't think they've earned it. Period. And actually, Laura just mentioned it, and I'm going to talk about it right now. The big news yesterday, of course, the Orioles were on Sunday Night Baseball. They got their butts handed to them. Texas beat them 11-2. But one of the fun things was during the one inning, I think it was like the 5th inning, they had Gunnar Henderson. They were interviewing him while he was playing shortstop in the middle of the game. They do that on ESPN from time to time. So they were interviewing Gunnar Henderson, and he broke the news that he was going to be part of the Home Run Derby this year, which I think is awesome. Last year we had Adley Rutschman in the Home Run Derby, and he was fantastic. He didn't win, but he really, really did a good job of representing and the Orioles, and he was so much fun. He did awesome. And I got to be honest with you, I think Gunnar Henderson has a legitimate chance to win this thing. Just the raw power that this kid has, and he has power to all fields. He's not a pull hitter. Gunnar can hit the ball out of the ballpark to the opposite field as well. He has straightaway power and opposite field power. So I can see Gunnar Henderson making a long, deep run in this year's All-Star game. I want to hear from you in the chat. Let me know. What do you guys think? Do you think Gunnar's got a chance? Now, I don't know if they announced the rest of the American League home run hitters that are going to be in the Derby. If they did, if somebody wants to tell me who those are, I would love to hear from you. But I guess it really is going to depend on who's in it with him. I don't think Ohtani's going to be in it. I don't know. I think Vlad will probably be in it to try to defend his title because he won last year. I think Aaron Judge might do it, or Juan Soto might do it. Maybe you get the guy from Houston. I can't think of his name. Tucker might do it as well. But I guess we'll have to see. We'll see who they get to pick in the All-Star Game home run hitting contest. But I think Gunnar Henderson's got a legitimate chance, if nothing else, to go deep into it and maybe even win it. Just my opinion. But I'd like to hear what you guys think as well. Again, welcome in, everybody. Good to have everybody here. Nice to have everybody in on a Monday night. I know we haven't done one of these Orioles Weekly in a while, but I try to find, when I'm doing a stream during the week of the games, like my Wednesday night games of the week, I try to stay away from doing as many Orioles Weekly as if I can. Bear Arms, welcome in. Adley says Gunnar swings too hard and tires out. And that could be too. Here's the thing, Bear Arms. Here's what I'll say about that. I understand that so much. But maybe it'll be a different story for the home run hitting contest, because maybe he'll know that he doesn't have to swing that hard to get the ball out of the ballpark. We'll see. He may very well tire out. I agree with you. He may very well. And I think that's a lot of it for a lot of guys sometimes. Some of these guys get off to really good starts, and then they tire out. And I understand it. Chris Slammer, what's up, buddy? Welcome in. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Bear Arms, welcome in. Hope you consider subscribing to the channel. I think this might be your first time in here. But I think the raw power of Gunnar Henderson is really going to give him a legitimate chance to go deep in the All-Star game. We're going to talk about that too, Lore. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Okay, so we talked about home run hitting contests. We talked about All-Star game. We're going to talk about that right now, Lore. So, as you guys, if any of you have been watching the Orioles lately, it's been an up and down season for Cole Irvin. He has been his first 2 or 3 starts with the Orioles to start the season weren't very good, and then he had that 4 or 5 game stretch where he was very good. But his last 3 starts, he's been hit really hard. Command, he's walking batters, he's giving up a lot of runs. He gave up 8 runs in his prior start to yesterday. 4 earned, but he gave up 8. And then yesterday he gets shelled again for 5 runs. He hasn't gone more than 5 innings in his last. He hasn't gone 5 innings in his last 3 starts. His ERA has ballooned to over 4, and I got to think that Cole Irvin is on borrowed time in the Orioles rotation. Bear Arms says, I'm sure his peers have busted his chops about it. To make a point, that's how they are a fun, terrific group. They are a good. It's a really good group. I agree 100%, Bear Arms. But back to Cole Irvin, I would say that I think he is probably pitching his way off the rotation and into the bullpen. And now that Dean Kramer is probably coming back, I don't see them starting Kramer again with another rehab start at AAA. Although he hasn't looked good. He's been hit every single start he's had. But I think that it's basically just getting some work in. And I think Dean Kramer's going to... His next start will be in the major leagues. Probably in the Seattle series. And I think what will happen is they will push Cole Irvin back to the bullpen. I really do. Because they'll still have a lefty in the rotation with Cade Povich, who's pitched well enough to consider... to keep getting starts in the rotation. But Irvin, I think, is going to go to the bullpen. Now, for what it's worth, if Albert Suarez's last start was a bad one, it may have been him. But I think his last start, which was really, really good, probably saved him from getting booted out of the rotation. Jedi Master Joe, welcome in. Maybe a chance for the World Series. Hope you're having a great night. Hi, everyone. Hey, Jeremy Weingard, welcome in as well. Hey, Walt, the Orioles are killing it. I was talking to one of our family friends, and from afar, everyone thinks the Orioles are on fire and on one of the top teams. Well, they are, Joe. They are definitely one of the top teams. When they got like the second or third best record in all of baseball. And they've been playing phenomenal lately. And we're going to get into that for sure. But I think Cole Irvin is going to probably get booted to the bullpen. And to be honest with you, they probably need help out there anyway. And from there, I think what you'll see is Dean Kramer go into the rotation in the number 4 spot. I'm sure Povich will be the number 5, but Dean Kramer will be the number 4, and he really shouldn't be any higher than 4. If they bump him ahead of Suarez, and put him at the number 3, okay, it is what it is. But he's really not a 3. He's a 4 or 5 at best. Bear Arm says we were discussing Irvin about the league catching up to him weeks ago. He pitches his pitches end up too much in the zone, and he doesn't have a dominant out pitch. No, I agree, Bear Arms. That's a very good point. What it's been with him, and I've noticed, and to be honest with you, I think it's been that when the Orioles had that 5-game losing streak and they weren't pitching well, I can attribute this to a lot of them. Pitch location was bad, especially when they were ahead in the count. You would see them have a hitter 1-2, 0-2, and they would leave a ball over the middle of the plate, and they would just pound it. They would drive it into the gap, or they'd hit a home run, or they'd get a base hit. The pitch selection, or more or less the location, on certain counts has been really, really bad. And I agree with you. Cole Irvin is one of them, where he is getting too much of the plate when he is ahead in the count. Look, the old saying is, get ahead with strikes, get them out with balls. And they weren't doing that. And it's very frustrating because you're like, you got a 1-2 count or an 0-2 count on a hitter. You don't have to have that much of the plate. You can waste one and see if he'll chase. And they just weren't, their command was not there. And it cost them. It cost them for sure. Now, Brian, here's the thing. I don't know that they're gonna put that kind of pressure on Cade Povich to be the number 3 guy. I just don't know that. I mean, 3, 4, and 5 at this point in the season, is it really that big of a deal? 1 and 2 are Burns and Grayson, but I don't know that you would put, like, for instance, I'll say right now, let's say the Orioles make the playoffs. Who's your 3 starters? If you go with just the 5 we have, okay, you're going to start Grayson one game. You're going to start, obviously, Corbin Burns the first game. But are you going to give the pressure of a rookie to a playoff game? It burned them last year. They put Grayson on the mound for game 2 of the division series, and he got beat. He got hit. And he was a rookie. It was a lot of pressure to put on him. Last year, Kyle Gibson didn't pitch in the division series. Why? He's a guy that he was a veteran. He had experience, playoff experience. I know he didn't have the best numbers, but he should have been on the mound. And then they had Dean Kramer in the elimination game pitching. The elimination game. I don't know. I think you have to be careful with that. So, because right now, I would not be giving the ball to Cade Povich in a Game 3 of the division series. I just wouldn't. Unless we're up 2-0. Laura says, I think the Orioles need to go get someone who helps bullpen. Yeah, well, I'm sure they're going to get help at the deadline. We're going to talk about the deadline in a little bit. Number 3 wish might be a trade then. Yeah, I think that they will, and I think we'll get into that when we talk about the trades in a little bit here. Bear Arm says, I wouldn't move Suarez for now. He handles pressure well. I agree. I think Suarez his whole thing is command. It's all about fastball command with him. It's not even his secondary pitches. It's his fastball command. When he has fastball command, he gets ahead of hitters and he gets them out because he has overpowering stuff. The guy throws in the upper 90s, but when he's off, he's off. Welcome in, Dean Smoker. Welcome in, Dean. Good to have you here. I feel bad for Ryan Mountcastle, who can win in voting. Maryland versus Canada, right? Yeah, it's funny, but Dean, welcome in. Good to have you here. I don't see Mountcastle garnering enough votes to pass Vlad Guerrero Jr. I just don't. I think Mountcastle has had a pretty good year. His average is up. I love batting average, guys. I always had. Always have. I don't like seeing guys hitting 230, 240. I want to see guys in the 270, 280 range or higher. I just feel, you're paid to hit and get on base. Do it. Not just hit home runs. There's more to the game. But anyway, yeah, Mounty's gonna have a tough time making the team. Bear Arm says that he needs a starter. Suarez does use high pitch counts, but he does get out of difficult. Well, he gets out of difficult situations because he misses bats. Because he can strike people out. He has a power arm and he can miss bats, and it helps to get him out of difficult situations. I agree. Am I voting? Yes, I've been voting. I've been voting since the voting started for the players. And I voted today, and I voted for Mountcastle. I voted for Westburg. I voted for O'Hearn. I even voted for Santander, even though I'm not sure Santander deserves it. I know he had a great month of June. Anthony did, but there's more to the game than just hitting home runs. And when that's a whole nother story. I don't even want to get into that, but maybe we will talk about that because I don't want the Orioles to be a one-dimensional team. I just don't, and they seem to be a one-dimensional team. I would love to know the percentage of runs that score for the Orioles are off of home runs. I bet you it's better than 60%. And that worries me because in playoff time, you're facing better pitching, better staffs, and it's going to be harder to hit home runs. So what you rely on to score, if that dries up, how are you going to score? I want this team to be multifaceted, multidimensional, where they can get runs other ways than scoring by hitting home runs, other than just hitting home runs. And that right now scares me because I don't see that with this team. They're not a team that hits or scores a lot of runs other than putting the ball over the fence. That worries me. Laura says maybe Suarez needs to go to the bullpen when Kramer comes back. No, Laura, I don't think so. Not yet. Barrow Arm says need to work on their chasing bad pitches, killing scoring opportunities. Well, that's true too. I mean, again, we can talk about the pitching side of this. We can talk about the hitting side. As good as the Orioles have been, and they're still on pace to win over 100 games. There are holes on this team. There are holes in this team, and one of them is that. And the other thing I don't like, you're right. Exactly what I was talking about with our pitchers trying to get the hitters to chase when they're behind in the count. Our hitters do exactly that when they're behind in the count. They chase. But the one thing I'm not a big fan of, and maybe I'm in the minority here, I don't like swinging early in counts. Namely the first pitch. I just don't. I think it's an easy out, and it saves the pitcher. How many times have the Orioles swung on the first pitch and it's an out? And just like that, one pitch, one out. There's so many times. Take the first pitch. Now, I know they've talked about Gunnar, and he likes to attack early, and it's better for him, this, that, and the other. I don't know. I like to make the pitchers work, and I don't think the Orioles make the pitchers work. Jeannie, when you go in to MLB.com and you go to vote, you click on the star, either click on the name, click on the player, or click on the star, and you'll see it should light the player up, and it'll give you the one vote. But thank you. I hope you vote. Thank you. Yeah, guys, be sure to vote. But anyway, we were talking about Cole Irvin making the rotation, this, that, and the other. Yeah, at least the first time through. I would agree with that, Bear Arms. That's my point. Make this guy work. How many times do the Orioles come up in the first inning with three of our best hitters, Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, and either O'Hearn or Westburg or Mountcastle or Santander? How many times have the Orioles really scored in the first inning? Very seldom, even with their best hitters at the plate. So that's just me. I think they need to take more pitches. So let's talk a little bit about the schedule for June. So back in May when the Orioles were struggling, they had Santander struggling, they had Mullins struggling, they had Hayes struggling, and I hate to say it, but I still think for the most part those guys, they're getting better. They've come out of their big slumps. I still don't think they're having very good seasons, all three of them, and you can even throw Cowser in there as well. Again, you've got to look at their overall numbers. Look at their on-base percentage. Look at their batting averages. They're starting to hit some home runs, which is fine. But back then in May, I said, look, when the Orioles get to June, if these guys don't start hitting, June is going to be brutal. I said, because we're really going to tell something in June. Because look at who they play and look at the schedule. They got like one day off in June, and they face so many really good teams, over 500 teams, and it's going to be tough. Joe says, I'm against taking the first pitch. I think someone just smashed a homer first pitch of the game recently. Well, they do, but I mean, again, your job is, especially as a leadoff hitter, again, I'm old school. Leadoff hitter is supposed to take pitches, work counts, get on base for other guys to drive them in, which is why I said from the very beginning, I don't think Gunnar Henderson should lead off. He's just not he's not a leadoff hitter. He's a number 4 hitter. He's a number 3 hitter. That's what he is. That's why he's got 26 home runs, but only 58 RBIs. Because he's hitting so many home runs with nobody on base because he's leading off and hitting home runs. But I'm sorry, Joe. I'll disagree with you. One here and there is one thing, but for the most part, those guys are swinging at the first pitch and they're getting out. I don't like it. It saves the pitcher. Make him work the count. Make him pitch. And it's an advantage to the pitcher when he gets the first guy to swing at the pitch and it's one out. Just like that. Just my opinion. But anyway, back to June. 820 Chief, what's up, Dan? Welcome in. It's Gunnar usually. Yes, he should not be leading off. It's insanity. My opinion. I don't see him as, he's just not. That's not his job. It shouldn't be. But the Orioles right now don't have a prototypical leadoff hitter. Look, I said this before. I said I don't have a problem if they have Adley Rutschman leading off because he reminds me, he's a much better version of Jason Kendall. I don't know if you guys remember Jason Kendall. He used to play for the Pirates. He was a catcher, real good hitter, got on base, had a good high batting average, really good defensively, and they used to have him lead off. That's who Adley Rutschman reminds me of, but a much better version of Jason Kendall. I wouldn't have a problem with him leading off. I wouldn't have a problem with Jordan Westburg leading off. I just think Gunnar Henderson is your major power threat. You want him lower in the order where he's going to get more RBI opportunities. Yeah, I agree. Joe, Bear Arms. I just think that Gunnar, over time, and I think it might be next year, maybe next year, Gunnar Henderson becomes the number 3 or 4 hitter because I still think Anthony Santander is gone at the end of the season. So he won't be doing it. I don't know if Ryan O'Hearn is signed into next year, but if he's not, I don't think he comes back next year. And I think that they need to move him down in the lineup, but that's just my opinion. But anyway, for June, the Orioles really did. I was worried about the month of June. When I saw June coming up, I was like, oh my God, here we go. It's going to be such a bad month. Such a grueling schedule. I mean, they faced, just to go over June with you again, they faced Toronto, Tampa Bay. And again, I know these teams are struggling, but these are still division opponents. Then they had to face Atlanta, Philadelphia, the Yankees, Houston, Cleveland, and Texas. Texas is the world champs. Cleveland has the best record in the American League. The Yankees are the Yankees. Houston's playing better. Philadelphia has the best record in the National League. The Atlanta Braves won 105 games last year. They're still very, very good. It was a tough, brutal schedule in June. It really was. But I got to give the Orioles credit. They went 17-12 in June. So there were 5 games over 500 in the month of June. They hit 60 home runs in the month, which I think was like tied a record and the second best record all time for most home runs in a month. I think the Braves hit 61 last year or the year before or something like that. But they hit 60 home runs in the month of June, and they were much better than I expected. I was worried. I wasn't sure what they were going to do, and I said to myself, this could be a bad month. This could be an under 500. But they didn't. They went 17-12. They had a couple 4-game sweeps in there, or at least they had the 1 4-game sweep in Tampa, which I was there for the last game when they won that game. Or the next to last game when they won 9-2. They won that 4-game series. They played really, really well. They beat the Yankees. And other than that 5-game stretch, if they don't have the 5-game losing streak, then they're even better in the month. But overall, 17-12. Can't beat that. Joe says, I'm sure if you asked the manager, he would say, oh, we want to set the tone. Well, again, but what tone are you setting if he gets out? I understand that concept, but you have to say, what are the odds that he's going to get a hit swinging at the first pitch? Again, just my opinion. Bear Arm says, it's what bothers me about Stowers hitting over 300 and being sent down. Kerstead should not be going anywhere, period. Not down to Norfolk or traded. Even with the negatives, the team is even with negatives, the team is a phenom. Plus, they lost Bradish mid-month. Right, exactly, Brian. They lost Bradish as well. Bear Arms, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit because I'm going to talk about trade deadline coming up in July because we're now less than a month away. It's funny you bring that up. But anyway, congrats to the Orioles. They did much better than I thought they were going to do in July. I was really worried. And I said I would address it when the month was over. To go 17-12 with such a brutal schedule, I got to give the Orioles credit. So we're coming up on 7:30, and I don't usually do a full hour show, but this next topic it's going to be a couple different things I'm going to talk about here. We're going to talk about, now that we're in July, trade deadline is going to start becoming a very, very hot topic around baseball. And teams are going to have to start deciding, even those teams that are 4 or 5 games out of the wild card, they're going to have to start deciding, are we really in this, or are we going to start to make moves for next year? And, they're teams that decide they're in it and they want to go for it, it's going to be less options for the Orioles to go out and make trades. But here's the one thing I'll say about trading, okay? And I want everybody to look at this, try to be as objective as possible, okay? As objective as possible. Always remember that first off, you need 2 to tango. So you may want to trade for a pitcher, but you've got to find a partner that's willing to trade a pitcher. Then, once you find that match, what do they want? And what are you getting in return? So remember, I'll give you an example. Rentals are going to cost the Orioles less. They just do. Because it's only a 2-month rental. So the Orioles will take that as leverage and say, look, I'm only getting this guy for 2 months. So I'm not giving you this, and this for a 2-month rental. Because to be honest with you, if you look at the Corbin Burnes deal, the Orioles gave up DL Hall, who I think is still on the injured list. They gave up Joey Ortiz, who's playing fine, but was expendable. And then I think they gave up a compensatory pick. For Corbin Burnes, maybe the best pitcher in baseball. Or he's definitely in the top 3. But why did it not cost so much? Because it was a 1-year rental. You weren't getting him long term. If Corbin Burnes still had 2 years left on a contract, the Orioles would have had to give up a heck of a lot more. But you don't have to when you're talking rental. So that's the first thing the Orioles have to look at. They have to look at, what are we giving up and what are we getting back? Is this a 2-month rental? And if it is, it's going to cost the Orioles far less than it will for a guy that they will have team control for another 2 to 3 years. Heck, for another 1 to 2 years. Laura, yeah. I think we'll see Connor Norby in the major leagues next year. Will it be with the Orioles? We'll talk about that in a minute. I meant in regards to Gunnar hitting first in the lineup. Oh, yeah, setting the tone. No, I got you, Joe. I'm sorry. I thought you meant him swinging at the first pitch. But even still, you can still set the tone, and it doesn't have to be necessarily with a home run. It could be a single, a stolen base, and then a base hit gets the runner home. The biggest problem, Barry Arm says, the biggest problem is desperate, badly managed teams jacking up the currency needed to get pitchers. Hey, Paul Engel, welcome in. Bear Arms, I know, but that's where I think, in my opinion, Mike Elias has to really step back and take a look. Because here's the thing. Last year at the trade deadline, he traded for Jack Flaherty. It didn't work out. Traded for Fujinami. It didn't work out. So that worries me a little bit about him. What the Orioles have to do, they really have to sit back and say, what do we need and what are we getting? Because here's my opinion. These are the guys that the Orioles cannot trade. Cannot trade. I don't care. Then come back with nothing if this is the case. Because if these players are the players that they want, then don't make any trades, and I'll be fine with it. I'm being about as serious as a heart attack right now. So these are the guys that cannot be traded off of the Orioles. And if I'm wrong long term, then I will admit it. Number one, obviously, the obvious choice, Jackson Holliday. Not going anywhere. 20 years old, phenom kid. He's going to be great. Great makeup. The kid has got a real good head on his shoulder. He's got a pedigree. He's going to be the everyday second baseman, possibly leadoff hitter for the Orioles in the future, and he's going to be a superstar. I think that everybody else thinks that. That's the first guy that's off the table. Second guy off the table is Heston Kjerstad. Bear Arm said it earlier. I agree 10,000%. This was the number 2. He was the number 2 overall pick I think it was the 2021 draft. Number 2 overall pick. He could have been the number 1 overall pick. He was the number 2 overall pick. Not the Orioles' number 2 pick. Baseball's number 2 pick that season. This kid has 40 potential home run. His raw power, and you would have saw it the other night. He hits a fly ball to center field that just kept going. That for most other people probably dies. But he, and it's on the inside too. They got him on the inside. So he didn't even extend his arms. And he still hits it 415 feet for a home run dead center field. 40 potential power. 40 home run potential power at a Heston Kjerstad. And even if his defense doesn't come around to the level that we want it to, then DH him. He has game-changing power. It's raw, too. And it's just going to get better. He's 23, 24 years old. Absolutely cannot trade this kid. Period. Cannot trade him. And if they do, I'm going to be hugely upset that they trade him. And then last but not least, you said it, Bear Arms. You're reading my mind tonight. Kobe Mayo. Again, another guy whose defense, his fielding is getting much better. Absolute masher. This kid, he hit one out of the stadium in the minor leagues earlier this season. He is going to be another 40 home run guy. Legitimate 40 home run, potential home run hitter in the major leagues. He should already be in the major leagues. But he's not. The Orioles could have not 1, not 2, but 3 40 home run guys. 40 potential home run guys. Because Gunnar, look, I said at the beginning of the season, go back and watch when I did my very first Orioles Weekly. When I did my predictions for the season, I said Gunnar Henderson's going to hit 40 home runs. I'm telling you, I still think he's going to do it. He's got 26 right now. You're going to have 3 guys in this lineup that are going to have potential for 40 home runs. That's like unheard of. His raw power, Kobe Mayo, is going to, he's just incredible. He's like 6'6". He's almost like an Aaron Judge type. Crazy power. And that's the other guy for me. Those are the 3 to me that are absolutely off the table. Bear Arm says Mayo, Heston, Holiday to start. Yes, that was my 3 as well. I'll get into Basayo in a minute with you. Heston's already seeing Major League pitching well. He walks on top of the power, insane power. I agree. I mean, look, he hit a home run the other night. He hit the grand slam the other night. Had a double on top of it. He's coming around. Again, everybody's going to struggle. Everybody struggles. It's part of the game. It's a long season. You play 162 games. You know, you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're considered awesome. He's going to have his slumps. Plus, he's technically a rookie, in my opinion. He doesn't have a lot of time. He needs at-bats. Once he gets them and he gets comfortable, look out, man. Jedi Master Joe said Jackson and Gunnar in the infield will be a great long-term. Yeah, I agree. And Westberg, too. I think Westberg's underrated. I think people tend to forget about him. He was minor league player of the year like 2 years ago. Jordan Westberg was. This kid, he's a 25 potential home run hitter himself. But he's going to hit for average. He's going to drive in runs. He's going to play really good defense. He's not going anywhere either. Yeah, and I agree. Bear Arm says it. Mayo over Urias. Urias is really good defensively. Really good defensively. And I'm fine with that. Look, if you told me right now, who do you want, Mateo or Urias on this team? I think I'll take Urias only because of the defense. The speed thing, if you don't get on, if you can't steal first. And to me, Mateo is a mediocre player. I'm sorry. I don't see what everybody else sees in this guy. Just my opinion. What's up, Victor? Welcome in, buddy. You're not late. Good to have you here, pal. But those are the 3 for me that I think can't go anywhere. Now, somebody talked about Samuel Basayo. Here's my thing about Basayo, Bear Arms, and everybody else. This is what I've seen so far. 19-year-old, immense power as well. Really good arm. Like he's got like a 60-grade arm behind the plate. Sees the ball really well. He hits like a 25-year-old at the age of 19. But, and this is a big but I don't like the injuries. He's already gone on the injured list or been pulled out of games 2 or 3 times this season at the age of 19. That stuff worries me. It's one of the things why I always said I thought Austin Hayes was not long for this team. Austin Hayes, same type player, always seems to be out of the lineup, always hurt, can't put together a full season. He's out again lately because he's got I can't remember what they said. He's got a quad or a back issue or something. That worries me about Basayo. Is this kid going to be one of these kids that can only play 130 games a season or 120 games because he's got a nagging hamstring, or he's got a nagging shoulder, or he's having back spasms, or this, that, and the other? That worries me with Basayo. The potential, the talent is there, but there's no ability better than availability. And I don't care how good you are, if you're not on the field, you do me no good. And that's my big worry for Basayo. And that's why he doesn't make my untouchable list. Bear Arm says, I would also be looking to replace Hayes and bring up Stowers next year. Hayes has been subpar over a full year going back to the All-Star break. I agree. I agree 100%. Stowers is not quite as good defensively as Hayes is. He doesn't have he has probably about the same arm. I don't think he can track balls like Hayes can, but the power is better with Stowers as well. The issue with the Orioles too, though, you have to be careful. They're very left-handed heavy. Not a lot of right-handed hitters in the Orioles lineup. That's another reason why I think Kobe Mayo has to stick around. He's a right-handed power hitter. We have plenty of left-handed power hitters. We need a righty, and that's where he comes in. But Stowers, I don't know if Stowers is actually, if the Orioles were to package him and bring back a legitimate starter, I don't think I would be too upset. I'd be sad to see him go because I don't think he ever got his just due here. But if it brought us back the right combination of what we need, I think I'd be okay with it. Because you figure long term, Kowser's going to play the outfield. Kerstad's probably going to play the outfield. Enrique Bradfield at some point they're going to expect to play the outfield. Now, I'm sure they want him to play out there at some point. So I think the Orioles have plenty of guys for their outfield, in my opinion. Sorry about the dog. He's barking at something out there. It must be another dog. But I don't know what the Orioles are going to be. Connor Norby, obviously, I think he probably is going to be the most likely guy that's traded, especially now that they have so many infielders. With Jackson Holliday, expect to play every day at second base at some point. Gunner's going to play every day at shortstop. Westy's probably going to play every day at third base. Kobe Mayo, Ryan Mountcastle is going to be your first baseman, DH type. Where are you going to put Connor Norby? Is he going to be your utility guy? I think he's better than a utility guy. Would I keep Mateo or let him go? I would let him go. And I think the Orioles will. I do. I really think that ultimately, I think that he probably is not on this team next year. Just my opinion. Maybe the Orioles do consider Connor Norby a super utility guy, and he plays all the time, and they just keep doing the rotation. But you have to trade something to get something. And I'll be interested to see what the Orioles are willing to give up. But mostly, what do they get in return? Let's see here. Victor says the Mets gave away the last 2 games to the Astros. Could have been a few games over 500. And then a wicket spot at 1.5 games out. Well, it's a wild card spot. Yeah. Look, plenty of time. Plenty of time, Victor. Plenty of time. It's July. July 1st. You got plenty of time, man. Bear Arm says, true about injuries with Basayo. Do you keep him and see what he does next year, or unload while value is high when you already have Adley? Well, it's the big issue, Bear Arms. It's the problem with this, and that's why these GMs, real good GMs, earn their money. Because what's going to happen is this. You have to say to yourself, first off, Adley isn't going to catch forever, and I'm sure they don't want him to catch 130 games. They really want him to play. They want him in the lineup for 150 to 160 games if they can, and they're probably going to want him to catch about 100 to 120 games. So you've got to have a good backup that can go out there and play, that can catch. So Basayo, if you can get the right guy for a guy like Basayo, maybe you do pull the trigger. Maybe you do. But it's got to be the right guy. And Basayo's a high talent. He's like number 12 overall in Major League Baseball prospects, and he's like the number 2 or 3 prospect for the Orioles, and he's number 12 in Baseball America. So he's highly touted. You've got to get a huge return for him. Mateo has increased his value this year for a trade. I don't know. But what do you get for him? Bare arms. What do you get for him? You get a guy that plays good defense, can steal bases. He's not hitting. He's hitting like 230. He's not going to hit home runs. He's not going to drive in runs. He's going to steal bases if he gets on base. He'd have to be part. He'd have to be part of a package. He obviously isn't going to be the centerpiece of any package. All he's going to be is part of a 2 or 3 player deal. If at all. Matthew Rogers, welcome in. He says Cole needs to go. I think he needs to go out of the rotation, and we'll see what happens from there. But I don't know that he needs to necessarily go. The Orioles need every arm they can get right now. And he was good enough for 4 or 5 starts to warrant to at least be in the bullpen. And they need help out there. So that's my thing with the trades. I think the Orioles will make 1 or 2 trades at the trade deadline. I think everybody needs to prepare and brace yourself that it's not going to be a blockbuster trade. I don't see it happening. I think the Orioles made their blockbuster trade in January when they traded for Corbin Burnes. I don't think you're going to see them trade for make a major trade. I just don't. I don't think they'll make a huge trade. They might go out and get a number 3 or number 4 starter, a veteran who can eat up innings and be a solid, secure foundation in the rotation, and maybe go out and get a good bullpen guy, and I think that's it. I think they're not going to go out and get an outfielder. I know people were talking about them possibly going after Luis Robert or Kyle Tucker or what have you. I don't see it happening. I think they're going to rely on Mullins, Hayes, Kowser, and Santander to get the job done, and Kerstad as well. I think that's what they're going to do. I would not expect big moves. I don't. The national media is going to go crazy. Oh my God, the Orioles are not going for it. They didn't go all in. They're holding this team back. I don't necessarily agree with that. It's just my opinion. Matthew says we need Detroit pitcher. You talking about Jack Flaherty again? They might. That wouldn't surprise me if they could give up a Judd Fabian for Jack Flaherty. They might do it. You never know. I'm assuming you mean Jack Flaherty being funny, but I don't know what they're going to do. But I really don't expect any major moves from the Orioles at the trade deadline. I think they'll try to go out and get a starting pitcher, but again, I think it's going to be a veteran like a Kyle Gibson or somebody like that. Heck, they might even try to get him back. But St. Louis has been playing better, so I don't know. Bear Arm says, I love Mateo to manufacture runs and be the placed runner in extra innings. His defense is stellar at second, Gold Glove level, probably trading Norby. See, I don't know. I don't find very good. I think Mateo's defense is fine, but I think Norby plays just as well defensively at second base as him. I think the only thing going for Mateo is his speed. I don't think his defense is that much better than Connor Norby's at second base. And the only reason why it's better right now is because Norby doesn't get a lot of playing time there. But if he got playing time there, he would be a viable candidate. But I don't like Mateo. Never have. I think he's overrated on this team. For some reason, the Orioles love him. And I don't think he's done much for us. I really don't. I think he's blocking guys from playing. Oh no, their ace. Well, I don't see Detroit giving up their ace. I don't know that they'll do that. Not at all. Why would they? And what do the Orioles got to give up to get him? Bear Arm says Orioles are not giving up these high-level prospects unless it's a no-brainer and the market will make it unlikely. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And are you willing to raid your entire farm system for a guy that maybe, again, if you're going to go out there and make the big move, it better be a guy that you have more than 2 months of team control. If you're going to give up on these prospects and trade them away, you've got to have more than 2 months team control. Otherwise, you are really rolling the dice Because if the Orioles give up, let's say, a Heston Kjerstad and a Kobe Mayo, and they go out and get a guy for a 2-month rental, and they don't win the World Series, look out. There's going to be some PO'd fans, and I'm going to be one of them. So I think they really need to really look into, where are we and what are we expecting. 22 likes. Thanks, gang. Oh, for the record, I want to keep Norby over Mateo. Yeah, Tariq Skubal is not going anywhere. They're not trading him. Well, but see, Matthew, here's the thing. I disagree with that. You say they have no choice if they want to compete. They are competing. They won 101 games last year with the team they had. Now, I know they lost in the first round of the playoffs, and again, that was the first time most of those guys had ever experienced the playoffs. And they have the third best record in baseball this year. They've got 50-something wins already. They're on pace to win 100 games. They are competing. They are absolutely competing. They can win with what they have. They can. They're showing they can win with what they have. That's all I'm saying is people always say, you got to go out and get these guys to win. Why? You are winning. That's how I see it. Again, that's my logic. Maybe I'm wrong. Sometimes I call myself Mr. Reason. I'm the voice of reason. I try to be anyway. I never understood that. If you're a team that doesn't have an ace, and you can go out and get an ace, okay, you go get an ace. But to say that they need to go out and trade all these players away to compete, I think that's a farce, in my opinion. And no disrespect. They can win with what they have. Their pitching is weaker. I agree. It's not weak. The Orioles have a legitimate ace, and they have another guy as a number 2 who's a legitimate number 2. Most teams only got 1 to 2 guys just like the Orioles. Their 3, 4 to 5 guys are not that good. They're hit or miss. And the Orioles, I'll be honest with you, if Cade Povich continues to progress and play well, now you've got a 1, 2, and a 3. So I do think that their pitching is weaker than it was. I agree 100%. But I don't think you have to raid the minor league system to stay competitive and go deep into the playoffs. I just don't. Yeah, the Orioles have 53 wins. Do I have any issues with Gunnar doing the home run derby? No, I don't have any issues with it. I think he'll be okay. Adley did it last year. Afterwards, he was fine. I know people say sometimes it messes with the swing. I don't see an issue with it. Matthew, I don't know that they need to replace Bradish. I don't know. First off, I mean, he's going to come back next year, probably second half of next year. You'll probably see him in July or August of next year. I think, again, they're going to make some kind of trade for a pitcher, but they're not going to trade for a number 1 or a number 2. It's going to be a 3, 4, or 5 guy, and it's probably going to be a veteran. Just my opinion. Bear Arm says this team will be incredible when these prospects come up and our pitching gets healthy. Meanwhile, one solid reliever on top of a 100-win team has a chance this year. Again, just my opinion. I'm not saying these guys... Suarez has been fine. He's not been dominant, but you're not going to have 1 to 5 dominant pitchers. Nobody has that. And even when you do have it, that doesn't mean you're going to win. The Atlanta Braves had the best pitching staff for 15 seasons. They had Maddox. They had Smoltz. They had Glavine. They had Denny Nagel. They had everybody. They had pitching good. Steve Avery. They had it. They had all of it. In the 14 seasons, they won the National League East 14 years in a row. They won the division. How many World Series did they win? With all that pitching? 1. Now, 1's better than none. I'll give you that. But they won 1. So the pitching doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win all the time. It's got to be a complete effort. Just my take. Again, Sonny Gray, what are they gonna have to give up to get him? And not only that, is he a free agent at the end of the season? I haven't looked at Sonny Gray's numbers, so I don't know where he is. But is he a free agent at the end of the season? That's going to be key. Nomadic Brian says, chance of getting a starter rental without touching the prospects not easy, but might happen. It depends. Again, it just depends on what you're asking for. I think the Orioles, if they get a 2-month rental guy, they can do it. They can go out there and they can say, look, this guy, I want him. I'll give you this and this. No, I'm not giving you one of my top 5 prospects because I only get him for 2 months. I think they could do it in that respect. I think they don't have to raid the entire farm system to go out and get somebody that's going to be a legitimate piece to a team. Well, you got to pay Corbin Burns. Laura asked a really good question. Corbin Burns has to be paid. I think that's one thing that now that Bradish is gone for the season and won't be back till at least probably July or August of next year, you got to re-sign Corbin Burns. $35 million a year, $40 million a year for 5 years. Find it. Give him 5 years. Okay, so he signed for 3 years, but Sonny Gray, are they going to give? Do they even want to trade Sonny Gray? That's the other thing too. How do we even know they want to trade him? Right? You need 3 good starters for the playoffs, or 2 dominant and a couple solid. Offense just can't get cold like they do. All right. Okay, well, if you need 3 good starters, I think the Orioles have 3 good starters. If you need 2 dominant starters, I think the Orioles have 2 dominant starters. I think Grayson Rodriguez has pretty much solidified himself, and Corbin Burns sure as heck is dominant. And the offense, I think, is a year older. They're a little bit wiser. They've now been to the playoffs. They know what it's like. They can handle the pressure a little bit more. There won't be one guy, not one guy, on that team this year when the playoffs roll around that doesn't have playoff experience now. Not one. Because if I'm not mistaken, Kerstad was on the playoff roster last year, and I think Cowser was on. No, Cowser was in the minor league, so he might be the only one. But the majority of the guys on that team are going to have playoff experience. John, AB, welcome in, buddy. Good to see you. Again, Matthew, it just depends. I don't know that they necessarily would. And again, it's a matter of, what do they want? What do they want what do they want in return? And that's the thing. And here's the thing. So let's talk about that for a minute. Sonny Gray, who's he with right now? St. Louis, if I'm not mistaken. Sonny Gray, I think. Somebody help me out in the chat. Sonny Gray is he's with St. Louis right now, right? St. Louis is good. They're 3 games over 500. They're literally, I'll tell you where they are right now. St. Louis is 3 games over 500. They're 6.5 behind Milwaukee. In the wild card, they're in. Right now, if the playoffs were to start today, St. Louis would make the playoffs. So he's not on a bad team. So, that's just my opinion. 6 years, $45 million for Corbin Burns, says Laura. What about the White Sox pitcher? Maybe. Again, I think there's team control with that guy for another 2 years after that. We'll have to see. But again, it's a matter of, okay, they're willing to trade him, but what do they want? We can throw all these names out there. Yes, we want the guy from Chicago. Yes, the guy from Chicago is available. What do you want? We want Kobe Mayo and Heston Kjerstad. No. That's the thing. So, Sonny Gray I don't think is going anywhere because just like that, St. Louis is in second place, 6.5 out of the division lead, and they're in the wild card right now. Right now, if the season were to end today, they'd have the 3rd wild card spot. So I don't see Sonny Gray going anywhere. Why would they trade him? They're right in the hunt. And the White Sox, again, they're probably going to ask for the world, and the guy's not even going to get traded. Remember Dylan Cease? Remember how long it took them to trade him away? Okay, just my opinion. I'm trying to think rational. I don't want to be reactive to the fact that we've lost some players. Okay, I don't. I mean, look at the Yankees. The Yankees all scared cold for most of the season, and everybody thought the Yankees were going to fold. They were going to be terrible. The other guys stepped up. They pitched well. I don't think any of those guys are that good. Do any of those... Luis Gil, does he scare you? Look what the Orioles did to him. They shelled him last time they faced him. You know, Marcus Stroman, he's at the end of his career. None of those guys are that good, but they've pitched well. The Yankees' rotation isn't that good. Nestor Cortez has been average. Maybe a little above average. I don't know. I don't think they're... Carlos Rodon, where's he? I don't know. I don't think the Yankees have been that great. But the pitchers that they've had out there this year have pitched well. That's all you have to do. We're doing good, John. I hope you are too. Bear Arm says, you hardly ever get opportunity to have a pitcher like Burns signed longer. I believe he really likes the environment and O's just need to match other offers. I would agree. Look, he wants to test free agency. He wants to have that option. He said it. He said, I really want to test free agency. I want to have that freedom to be able to have that opportunity. I respect it. But the Orioles have to push. They really need to get this guy back. Because if they don't sign Corbin Burns and they don't have Kyle Bradish to start the season, that's trouble. White Sox will be hungry and that plate might be too much to fill. Yeah, exactly. I agree. Right, Matthew. I would agree with you. You're right. We do. We have the top prospects in all of baseball. We're the number one farm system. And I agree with you. The Orioles have lots of people to offer. But that doesn't mean the teams want them. Okay? I agree with you. They may not have to trade Heston Kjerstad or Kobe Mayo or Connor Norby or Jackson Holiday. But will teams take the lesser players? That's the thing. Remember, we can say, oh, we got plenty of prospects to choose from. But that doesn't mean those teams see them in the same light that we see them. Okay? And it's just how it is. They may say, okay, that's great. I'm glad you like Seth Johnson or Daniel Johnson or Judd Fabian. We don't. So we don't want them. They may say that. That'll happen from time to time. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see what the Orioles do. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's show. Orioles are off today. They're in Seattle starting tomorrow night. I'm sure we'll get some news over the week. I really think that Kobe Mayo is going to be coming up. If he doesn't come up before the All-Star break, I really think he's going to come up at the very beginning of the second half after the All-Star break. I think the kid has totally earned his spot on this team, and I really think he needs to be given an opportunity to play a little bit at the major league level. He has nothing left to prove at the minor league level. Kobe Mayo needs to get his turn. He really does. He needs to get his turn. And hopefully the Orioles will do that. But anyway, gang, thank you all for being here. I hope you subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, please do so. Just hit subscribe. And, of course, hit the bell notification. That way, every time we go live, you'll get notified. No Wednesday live stream this week. No Wednesday game of the week as Melissa and I are going to Disney. We'll be up in Disney for the week starting the 3rd. So we will have some of our Disney live streams. So if you haven't checked out our Disney channel, I have like almost 18,000 subscribers over on our Disney channel. Check that out. One of my mods, if you could share that out, I'd appreciate it. I would appreciate that. Thanks, Sony. Appreciate you doing that. We will be live on July 3rd, showing the fireworks from Magic Kingdom for the 4th there. And I'll probably have at least one or so more streams while we're up there. We'll do some filming stuff too. So check us out. I've already got the thumbnail out for our July 3rd stream. Be sure to check it out and give us a thumbs up. What position does Mayo play? I forgot. Well, he's going to either play third, might play some corner outfield. He could play some first. He's got a little bit of flexibility, and the Orioles are really big on that. Oh, thank you, Bear Arms. I appreciate you subscribing. That means a lot. Thank you. But everybody, have a great rest of your night. Thanks, mods. Appreciate y'all being here. Guys, don't forget, Thursday and Friday, we'll have our new Hall of Fame profiles. Be sure to check those out. And other than that, I hope you all have a great night. Thank you all for being here. This was a really good turnout. I was really happy with it. You guys are awesome. Hope you all have a great week. And until next time, keep rooting for the O's and take care of yourselves and each other. Bye, gang.